welcome to Season 2, Episode number 7 of Pro Wrestling's Top 50. I'm your host, Travis McNeil, and today we continue our countdown of the top 50 matches in Impact Wrestling history with match number 44 on our list, which is the Gauntlet match to determine the number one contender to the Impact World Heavyweight Championship from the November 19th, 2019 edition of Impact. Before we get into this match, I would just like to point out that this match does contain Michael Elgin, who was, had allegations against him in the speaking out movement. If you've seen any of my videos before that contain, wrestlers of that nature, you'll know that I will not be tagging him on any of my social media posts regarding this match. There's also some other competitors in this match with some, that although they weren't brought up in speaking out per se, both Moose and Tessa Blanchard, have had their own problematic behavior. So if you choose not to watch this video, I completely understand. Otherwise, we'll get started in talking about this match. So gauntlet matches can be really, really tough to pull off. I think when you have multiple competitors, it doesn't always logically make sense, because you might have two guys that under normal circumstances would have a 15-20 minute match, but all of a sudden, they're able to do the job and put the other away in 4 minutes for the sake of a gauntlet match. If you're going to do a match of this style, you have to give it time, and that's something that we'd seen become a trend in the WWE over the past couple of years. They did one on Monday Night Raw that saw Seth Rollins put in, an hour-plus performance. They had another one on SmackDown that saw Kofi Kingston last over an hour, that led to him winning the title at WrestleMania 35, of course. So this match essentially was the Rich Swann show. The performance that he puts in is by far the most phenomenal performance of his career. It's something that showed that he could be a main event level player, and at the time of this video being recorded, he is the current Impact World Heavyweight Champion. So I think this match did a great job at raising his stock and showing the potential he had, to perform on that level. So the first leg of this gauntlet is just your standard good TV match. It's Moose and Daga. They do a very good, just simple power versus speed story. Daga hits a couple cool dives and a few cool sequences. But after about 5 minutes, Moose puts them away with, I'll say, relative ease. He hits a hot shot off the ropes, then a big spear. This match was nothing blow away, but it was good. It was a match that under normal circumstances, if it was on TV and you were watching Impact, you'd say, oh, that was good, and then move on with the rest of the show. From there, though, we get the entrance of Rich Swann, and this is where the match really picks up. So they do a similarly styled match with the power versus speed, of course, just given, the size discrepancies between the two performers. But Moose, I don't know if it was because, he was maybe embarrassed that, Daga was so much quicker than him in the opening leg. I don't know. But Moose decides that he's going to hang with Swann in the speed department. So very early on, he, does a kip up and kind of shows off a little bit. Swann takes him out with a drop kick, and then Moose just obliterates Rich Swann with a drop kick of his own. This would prove to be, kind of Moose's downfall, though. He could have, easily used his power, which he did throughout the match, but he would try another high risk. He would do like an Escalera into a turnaround crossbody sort of thing off the ropes. As he was coming down, though, Swann got him with an ace crusher, followed up with a lethal injection that was just nasty. It spiked Moose right on the top of his head. It wasn't the finish. It got him a 2, but that kind of left Moose on the ropes, not knowing what else to do. He went for the same combo that he used to finish off Daga. He hit the hot shot, but when he went for the spear, Rich Swann did his homework. He must have been watching the monitor in the back before he came out, for his entrance, because he was able to counter into a roll-up and put Moose away. The next leg saw Rich Swann against Michael Elgin, and this was the match that was worth the price of admission in and of itself, and really, kind of contributed to this match's inclusion on this list. These guys go to war for 20-plus minutes. They have incredible chemistry, same sort of deal, power versus speed, but the counters they do here are just absolutely incredible. They do so many just wild big spots. One spot that I thought I really liked, and I don't think I'd ever seen it before, is, Swann won the first match via roll-up. So they've established, the smaller guy can beat the larger guy by roll-up. So he does basically what I'll call like a schoolboy driver off the second rope that I thought was really cool for a near fall. They did another, flash roll-up spot where Elgin hit a buckle bomb and Swann countered it into a jackknife pin. And that's something that is kind of like an Elgin trademark. He would use this to lose a lot on the independents. So I bit that as, when I watched this match when it happened, I thought that was going to be the finish because I was so used to Elgin losing by somebody rolling him up with the jackknife out of the buckle bomb. But it was only 2. And from there, they just go crazy. They end up fighting on the apron. Elgin hits a brutal half Nelson suplex on the ring apron. Back in the ring, even more brutal. He hits a dragon suplex and then just an absolutely vile lariat that turns Swann inside out. It busts Swann's mouth open. He's gushing blood out of his mouth, spitting it everywhere. It was a great visual that just added to his underdog appeal that he had, in this match already. They do another really great counter sequence where Elgin hits a superplex and he would normally chain that into a Falcon Arrow, but Swann actually counters that into a Hurricane Rana, then hits 2 back-to-back reverse Ranas that got him a 2. It was, again, a really great near fall. Elgin then, they go back up and Elgin finally hits the Falcon Arrow but does like an avalanche one off the second rope. I thought that was going to be the finish. Just really, really great super indie sort of style stuff. They did a finish here that I think on a normal match would have been incredibly frustrating. I hate when guys wrestle for a long time and then don't have a clean finish. It makes the whole, watching experience feel unrewarding. But in a gauntlet, it's a little bit different because it can add to the overall story. So as long as that's satisfying, then you're okay. So they did a spot where the referee kind of started to get in Elgin's way a couple times. He was a little bit out of place. And, Elgin would kind of get a little bit physical with him and kind of beak off to the ref. Elgin gets Swann into the corner and he's just beating him down right after Swann's kicked out of everything. He's really frustrated. The referee's been bugging him, but he lets his frustrations get the best of him. So the referee kind of grabs him to try to pull him off Swann. What does Elgin do? He throws the referee to the side and gets disqualified. At the time, Impact was trying to protect Michael Elgin here, based off of his behavior and his actions outside of the ring. That proved to be pointless and a big waste of resources. But, at the time, that's what they were going for. So this protected him in the loss. And it added to that Rich Swann story where he barely survived another leg of the gauntlet. Elgin beats him down post-match and delivers a brutal Elgin bomb. So you've got Rich Swann, who's, fought 2 monsters so far. He's bleeding all over the place from the mouth, coughing up blood. He just got hit with a power bomb. And who is his third competitor that he has to face? Well, it was the last person to hold the Impact Wrestling Heavyweight Championship. It's Brian Cage, another monster. So Cage is a face at the time. He comes out and he kind of does the, we don't have to do this sort of thing. And again, just an amazing visual that made Swann look great. He's spitting blood everywhere and he says, come on, and slaps Cage. I expected Cage to just destroy him and that to be the end of the Rich Swann story, but what they did was so much better. They had Rich Swann give one last-ditch valiant fight where he counters everything that Cage throws at him. He hits all of these big kicks. He gets a 450 off the middle rope for a 1 count. He gets a 450 off the top for a 2 count. Cage tries to give him, an F10, and that gets countered into a cutter for a 2 count. Swann looked incredible, like he just wouldn't die. But at the end, he threw everything he had and it wasn't enough. He tried a Phoenix splash off the second rope, missed it. Cage quickly put him away with Weapon X. This ended Swann's run in the gauntlet. It was an amazing showing. He lasted, almost 40 minutes altogether, I'd say, and put on the performance of a lifetime that he should be very, very proud of. So that led to the final leg of the gauntlet here where you had Brian Cage against Tessa Blanchard. You knew eventually these two would end up crossing paths in Impact. They had a really good match for, the ill-fated Wrestle Circus promotion, about a year or so before, this match took place. Cage, at the start, again, he's a face. He didn't really want to hurt Tessa too much. They kind of do the intergender thing, but to Tessa's credit, she tries her best. She sticks, she moves. She gets 2 topes on the floor, but the third he counters into the F10 on the ring apron. And from there, basically all of the offense that Tessa would do really wouldn't affect Cage too much. But then she ends up, ironically enough, splitting his mouth open, right? So the same thing that happened to Swann happens to Cage, and that almost becomes like the kind of, Nelson, you know, the bully from The Simpsons sort of, you made me bleed my own blood kind of deal. So he just proceeds to destroy Tessa from that point forward. He gives her the deadlift superplex, and he gives her like a gorilla press slam into a power slam, and just, you know, ruins her. Tessa, you know, she's able to kind of fight back and get a couple of near falls. She gets the Magnum for 2, or pardon me, the buzzkill DDT for 2. She ends up getting the Magnum for another 2, and the finish here is really great. She goes for another Magnum, and Cage is just using his strength, you know, kind of catches her mid-move, turns that into Weapon X, but then she counters that into a Code Red and gets the quick 3, you know, just barely squeaking out that 3 over him. This was really well done. The match itself was good. The crowd popped huge for Tessa's win. There was a lot of women in the crowd, you know, that were kind of losing their mind about it. You know, it kept Cage strong that she got the win by the fluke, and it led to her challenging Sami Callihan for the Impact title at the Hard to Kill 2020 event. Gauntlet matches, like I said, you know, they can be interesting. This was a great piece of television, though. This took up the majority of the Impact Wrestling broadcast. It is just a phenomenal piece of work based, you know, around the performance of Rich Swann, but, you know, with 2 good matches in their own right, you know, bookending the process. This match can be found on Impact Plus, of course. You can subscribe to my channel here on YouTube, follow on Instagram and Twitter at Wrestling50, and please join me again tomorrow as we continue to count down Pro Wrestling's Top 50.